2x12 calling CQ. 2x12 calling CQ. Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? Hi, this is Greg Hildebrandt. I've been a professional artist for 62 years. I've done a lot of artwork in that time, and I'm still just trying to get it right.
All right.
Yeah, I think we haven't got it right yet.
Not 100%. We've been close.
Yeah, it's good.
We've been close, but not
a cigar. Where does that go? What the hell does that mean? Close but not a cigar. What does that mean? Close but not a cigar.
No cigar.
No cigar. Right.
Okay, close but no cigar is different than not a cigar.
No cigar. Right.
So maybe a cigar was a prize of some kind?
Okay.
Anyway, hello folks. We got some people already jumping in and tuning in. We've got Adrienne Wagner, who was answering you, saying that she is here.
Well, this is 2x2L, high CQ. You don't know what that is, but we'll talk about that some other time.
All right. So, folks, we're going to switch up a bit today. Not too much, obviously, being that it's us. But we are going to talk about the Marvel comic art, and we're really going to try to give a convention booth kind of appeal to this. So if you have questions regarding Greg's Marvel art or his comic art in general or whatever, please feel free to ask. We will stop. Greg will answer it on the spot.
Yes.
And we'll go from there. Right? Good. So right here behind us, so we've got plenty of art going on. So tell us about this giant painting.
This one is a what they call a 9 block. You guys probably know that, right?
Probably not. A 9 block.
You take this picture had to be designed to be divided into 9 cards. Each character had to be contained within a card.
A trading card.
A trading card, right, for a set. So there's 9 cards, and they call it a 9 block. But you get all the cards, and then they all form one single image, and this happened to be the X-Men of this particular year. I did this, 2017.
Did you paint this live somewhere?
Well, we were at Comic-Con 2017, New York Comic-Con. And I was working, I had already started it, but I was working on it at the show. And and this is it right here. So they had different costume changes, I think, if I remember right, and added a couple other characters. And I think there's a couple more up here out of the picture, 3 more up here. And the gimmick, or not gimmick, the struggle, so to speak, is to how you're gonna light it. Because you got this big picture with all these people. What are they doing? What's their action? They all have to be. They can't be standing in a room just together. They have to be all separated from each other. So you end up with a thing. I've done several of these before, but they're all basically coming at you. The usual comic book thing. And so you can divide them up that way. And then how do you light them? You have to get this key backlight, more or less edge lights them all. So you get that continuous yellow, orange, red light on all the figures. That's a kind of a unifying color light. And then each figure is lit low. So like Dr. X is lit from a low angle here with the Beast, and these other characters are lit from low angles. There's a key light on each one of these characters. That's more or less a whitish colored light, I'm thinking. So it defines the costume color. So you don't necessarily want a big red light here in the foreground on him and the Beast. It needs to be more or less a whitish warm light. I chose a whitish warm light, so that the colors of the characters register and they don't become monochromatic. All orange or all blue. So that's the big trick. And then Storm is up here with lightning, so that's another key lightning effect I've got on rim lighting everybody with a blue light. So you're thinking that all through as you're doing the layout for that. I'm thinking where all the light sources are. And then when I get models, I pose people for this. I get them in the positions, and I light them according to my sketch that I've set up, and then can start painting.
All right, so I'm going to back up a little bit, and I know this is going to take us out of Marvel. We said we are going to focus on Marvel, and we are. Let's put those back there. What was the first comic job you did?
What the hell was it? It was Xena. It was an independent character.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I can't remember. It was a medieval witch kind of like thing. Tim and I, when my brother was alive, we were working on it. Tim had a friend who wanted him to do this thing, and Tim said yes to this guy, and then it became like he really, because of other work that he was doing, he couldn't handle the whole thing. So then he asked me to be part of it, and so we both worked on it together. And that was the first one, and that was probably, when the hell was that? God, maybe 90, 92, 93, somewhere in there. Then the next big thing was with Marvel. That's
So, all right, we got our first question coming in. Sorry, it's going to take me a little while to read these. My line breaks are split up into 3 characters apiece.
That's crazy.
But so, Greg, what is your favorite Marvel character and why?
Those kinds of questions, right? Captain America. Why? First of all, it's from my time. He's from my time frame. I was born in 1939. So, and he was invented by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby for one express purpose: to fight the goddamn Nazis. So that right there is enough for me. And then I became friends with Joe Simon in his later life for the last 14 years of his life. So it had a real particular special connection, knowing Joe and Cap. And so he's my favorite Marvel character.
Cool.
That's the story right there.
Very cool. All right. Thank you for the question. And again, keep them coming, everybody. So then what was your first work for one of the major publishers? It would have been the big 2 at the time.
DC, Marvel. Well, I took a portfolio over to DC with Gene. Well, Gene called over there. One morning, I've been thinking about it for a while, and she had a publishing company, and we were going into all kinds of other stuff, Unicorn Publishing. And I kind of like woke up one morning. I said, I want to be in comics. I want to do something in the comics. And Jean said, "What? What do you mean? That wasn't her realm, And I said, "Well, I don't know. I have no idea what it would be, but I want to go in that direction." And I had been drawing pictures, kind of like superhero stuff, just in the mornings, just futzing around like a kid again, go back to the kid thing, just drawing doodles. And so we went over to DC Comics, because that was my first choice, actually, because that, again, is from my childhood. Marvel, as we know it now, didn't start till 1960 with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, basically, with the Fantastic Four. And that was, I was like, by that time, I was born in 39, so I was like well along. And so for me, my memory was for DC characters: Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash, all of those people. And so we went there first. They gave me a cover to do for the Spectre, Jerry Siegel's character that he created. And John Ostrander and Tom Mandrake. John Ostrander, the writer, Tom Mandrake, were just writing a new series of the Spectre for DC, which was fantastic. It was a great show. I mean, somebody should have made a movie of that whole story that these guys did. It was fantastic. And maybe they still will. And I did a cover for one of those. And then they were busy with another artist. I think Alex Ross was really the main man at that time. So then I said, well, that's Marvel. So Gene, I said, well, I was ready to go sweep floors over there, but Gene said, like, come on. And she called Stan, and Stan Lee, and she got the name of the then boss over there, Joe Calamari, and Joe Squid. He had a can of squid on his desk. And we went over, and they gave us the great welcome. Tom DeFalco, the editor-in-chief at that time, and then Bob Rudiansky, who worked with me on the card set that we did, me and Tim. And they rolled out the red carpet. I mean, they said, like, wow, what do you want to do? I said, I have no idea. I want to do something. And so Tom DeFalco, I think the next day, called Jane and said, well, how about a Marvel Masterpiece trading card set? Joe Jusko had just done a painted set, and that did very well. Mm-hmm. And so then they wanted us to do another set, and we did. It was 150 paintings. But it was me. I had just gone. Tim and I were had separated for a while, and we were just now coming together again, but not working together. We were just, talking. And so I had already been laying out the cards already, just on my own. I laid out, 159 of them or something like that. And then I asked my brother if he wanted to be part of it. I asked Jean if it would be all right. What did she think? And she said okay. And so I asked Tim, and he came in, and we posed it all then, according to my layouts.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Hold up right there. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to dive deep into the Marvel Masterpieces set. But before we go down that road, so you were well into your career.
Several careers.
Several
careers in art.
All art
film,
related.
Animation, film, children's book, general illustration, yes.
Before,
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, before you ever worked in comics. So you were primarily known worldwide, again, as a sci-fi fantasy illustrator, having done Lord of the Rings and obviously the Star Wars poster. But then moving through the 80s is when you were doing your children's book stuff, again, among other things, but that's
the Unicorn.
The Unicorn publishing stuff.
Classics, yeah. Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio, Peter Pan.
And then, so really, then in the 90s is when your comic career really took
94.
off. 1994.
1994. Well, the first thing wasn't the card set, which was a poster. It was a 9-block. Again, a 9-block. I think that the first thing we did was a 9-block of the original X-Men group.
All right.
And then we started the card set. And then we did several posters through that as we did the card set. And then we did lots of cards after that. After that initial card set, Tim and I worked on God knows how many. And it's all they're all in this book. This is the book that IDW just did. And it's a fantastically well done book. And it's got all the artwork that we did for posters, cards, you name it.
Now, in the book, I'm going to hold this up for everyone here again. Do you know, does it go in sequential order of... it does?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the image of the 9-block that he was talking
No, that's the
about.
second 9-block.
That's the second 9-block?
Yeah, that's the second one. Let me see. Yeah. No, it doesn't. That's... No. No, it's...
Sorry, we're looking at a book.
Yeah, we're...
All right.
Well, it kind of covers my career briefly here. Like this, there's a shot in here of when Tim and I were making documentary films on world hunger. Let me get the damn thing in there. There we are with a couple of Bolex cameras. Those are handheld cameras. We were just doing grab shots in Colombia, South America. Well, there's my dad there, sitting there on the porch with Tim and me together on the other side. And so, but the book covers my career and briefly, and then starts with what the hell do we start with?
So Richard Hammond says hello and much love from Plot 13 Studio in Kentucky.
Hello. How are you? Well, there's the first 9-block. So it does start once we get through the introduction. It starts
okay. So yeah. So there. Did you just show that?
No.
Okay. So there is that original 9-block that he was talking about.
Same setup. You see again.
Yep.
It's like you do the thing. They're all kind of like blasting at you, so to speak.
And then, so after that, you really kind of kicked it into high gear with the Marvel Masterpieces.
Right. And that was a whole engineering project, how to handle it. Because we had 6 months to paint 159 paintings. Pose them, shoot the models, and improvise all the costumes that we needed, and props and guns and such. And then draw them again, redraw the pictures. My first roughs, I didn't use those. I used to pose by, to set the models all up for those. But then we redo all from the models and other reference material, redrew them all, and then started to paint. And then we had to set up a whole routine and a schedule. And we were painting on Duran board, which is a really high quality masonite, for lack of a better term, but very good quality. And the stuff is like hard as nails to cut. And Gene would set it up with the lumber yard where we were getting our masonite on this, how many sizes, because we went through all the cards and determined what should be smaller pictures, and generally those are the big headshots. And then what will be the bigger pictures, generally they would be more complicated. And then some, some that got bigger yet, we did the final paintings this week because Marla was talking about maybe posters of them.
Okay.
So we set that all up. Then we had the boards all cut, went to the lumber yard, got them, brought them back, gessoed them all, white gesso, thin gesso coating on the thing, sanded it all down, every board, set them all up, started to transfer them, like with like a piece of transfer paper on the Xerox of the sketch, and tape it down onto the board, and then start to transfer, and then divided them up in terms of lighting situations. Daytime, nighttime, firelight, green light, red light, orange light, purple light, kind of like set up a whole thing like that so we could mix up big batches of paint and paint in different cards. So,
Okay.
I mean, we're not just painting one whole card from beginning to end. We were painting bits and pieces of cards that had the particular colors in it,
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And so that made it go faster. I mean, because 159 paintings in 6 months.
Yep.
How many you got to paint a day?
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it came down to.
So just for reference, when we're looking at the book, this section, it covers all of the Marvel masterpieces. So I mean, you still got a chunky section of that book left that's not the masterpieces, but that many pages. That's a lot of pages. And
it's got sketches, it's got the models posing, it's got I'm talking, I'm giving you information, and I'm doing. Glenn Hurdling is doing an initial interview, and so we're doing a talk routine, and then I just start kind of like going on and talking about it, and talking about the characters and some technical stuff, and it's a very well done book. It is really nice job.
And one of the things that I enjoy about it is that, again, those cards, I had that set of cards when I was younger, and they look great, but they're like 2 inches by 3 inches, something like that. And this, you really get to see the full.
That's the thing too about painting. We talked about this once before. I think you're painting for cards. You got a certain mentality that you have, because your painting that you're painting this big is going to be reduced down to this size, so it's got to read. You know what I mean? When I say read, it should register. You should be able to look at the card and have it be understood of what it is and what's going on.
Yeah.
Not a lot of business in it, because it just gets too confusing.
Now, we have another question. Were you doing Terry and the Pirates at
the same time?
Yeah.
That's a whole other gig. Terry and the Pirates daily Sunday comic strip. Michael Uslan, our friend, producer of the Batman films, he optioned it from Tribune Media, who owned Terry from the old days, from my days in the 40s. Great. Milton is fantastic. And then I was always a fan. And so then, he optioned it. We started doing it. Oh my God, it was insane. That's being in the trenches.
Yeah.
On the front lines. When you're doing a realistic strip. I don't mean cartoony, cutesy,
Yeah.
thing. I'm talking machines and hardware, and realistic figures and environments. It's like, woo! It's a challenge.
Tex Blaisdell, the inker.
Great Tex. I was teaching at Joe Kubert's school, where I went over to gain some counsel from Joe on inking, and then Tex was a grade from the golden era, and he was an inker, and he taught at Joe's school. He takes me, and it was kind of like fatherly embrace. He said, "This will make a man out of you."
That's too much. So, again, we're going back to this, the book, and talking about how the masterpieces took up that section, but you have a lot more stuff in here. So you've kind of made a transition. I'm going to say there's probably a lot of people that only know you, maybe as a comic book artist.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And I'm sure that's what it is. I mean, I'm going, 94. So how many years ago was that? It's quite a while ago.
It's quite a while.
What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. But I mean, and that's the gig, though. I mean, when I wanted to do it, some people said, "What?" Every time I jump into something new, which is what my whole kind of like operational system is, I have been since I was a little kid, is I like a lot of stuff, and I don't want to just land on one thing and specialize in. And But when you do that, and people get to know you for this thing, and you jump over here and do this thing, it's kind of like perplexing to them. I'm not sure why, because variety is the spice of life.
It is.
And the yeah, I think a lot of it is that people. It's like with music. It's a rock. Say you sing a popular, a rocker, Led Zeppelin. Play me "Stairway to Heaven." You know what I mean? No, I don't want to hear that new thing you just did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that kind of. I think you want to hear that thing that you were a fan of back whenever. But no. So in any event, that's a long thing. Yeah, people know me for that. And that's
your expectation. So before we move again too much further onto this, I do want to point out, we put it into the description of everything and out into the email blast and all of that. But I do want to make mention right now through Monday, we're offering 10% off. It's a convention, a non-convention exclusive offer for the live stream. Use the code LIVE1 when you go to the gallery to purchase anything Marvel related, such as the book, and you will get 10% off. Now, when you do that, the 10% discount's not going to reflect in the cart. We enter all of that stuff manually, and so your card will be billed the appropriate amount. You're just not going to see it initially when you go through your checkout. That's anything Marvel related, including that 9-block fanning.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, now we have to do our business. We have to take care of our business.
Yeah, well, it's all, that's what we...
Right?
Hmm?
That's why we're here. So it looks to me like the next phase you went into was doing posters. And again, we've got
this one for the X-Men 2099.
Nice big
Again,
shot.
The deal is, composition is number one. Where do you set it up? How do you set it up? What's happening, first of all? What are these guys doing? These people doing? How do you position them? How do you light them? That's always the issue for Tim and me. How do you light it up so that each character is distinguished, each character is clearly defined, and interesting lighting, different colored lighting. That's the beauty of this idiom. That's what I love so much about it. Coming into it, you can just go nuts with color light. It's so much fun. Now, and don't take me wrong. I love the darker, colorless stuff also.
Yeah.
But there's I love both.
Now I have a question for you. Thinking back to your work, is this through the Marvel stuff? Is it the first time that you really moved into the amping of the colors and the saturation?
I think we did it with Ursharak, our story. We started the discovery of dioxazine purple is the issue that created that ability. That how do you amp up color? Because you using dioxazine purple, which is a very intense, deep purple, you're kind of pulled into strong color to on top of that. You know what I mean? As the shadow color. It's I could get into it explaining, but I don't think we want to get too technical right now. Plus, it's a conscious effort, to crank it up, because we're dealing with comics, and I'm thinking, well, this is comics. It's comics.
Yeah.
It's like to take full advantage of everything, action, exaggeration, movement, color, the whole schmear, And for me, again, it was like I had been more sedate, if you want to put it that way, was the drawing and layout and setups. See, if it's going back to the 70s and the Lord of the Rings, that's very laid back, more or less. It's set back. I mean, I was thinking of that in terms of classical painting, in terms of almost an opera on a stage.
Okay, that makes sense.
Operatic. Yep. Not as though I'm inside of it with guys just flying at you and everything. That's a whole other approach. Yep. To zoom back, treat the thing almost two-dimensional. It's three-dimensional. You're
pull forward a little bit.
Fake two-dimensional, but you're thinking of it as a setup, out there, kind of like a classical Death of Socrates, very angry, that beautiful composition. Everything's very formal almost. In those terms, once we moved into this area, it's all wow, this thing, what comics are, things about blasting and moving, shooting out of the frame and all kinds of stuff like that. That was the fun of it. That's what I really wanted to get into, you know. So that opened up that whole world. And I got to thank people in this process too, because at Marvel, Bob Budiansky was the editor there, an artist himself. He had done a bunch of comics for Marvel, and he was the one that was working with Tim and me on this project, and he was really helpful in pushing me, with posing and attitudes and everything.
Okay.
Getting me aware of that, So that was really, it was great. It was a great learning experience.
That's an interesting dynamic of moving, because you're an artist first and foremost, but your approach isn't necessarily comic book driven.
Mm-hmm. Right. No.
You're not,
as much as I love comics as a kid,
yeah,
you move into other areas. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
so yeah, you can't just paint a picture. You really have to adjust the mind frame, adjust the mindset to what's happening in this medium.
Yep.
In this moment of time.
Yep.
And
at that time too, in the 90s, I was born in '39, so I grew up in comics in the 40s and 50s. So look at comics from the 40s and 50s. I was not about coming to Marvel in '94 and say, I'm going to draw them like characters from the 1940s. As much as I love the 40s, I'd like to do a comic. I wanted to do Cap going back and fighting Hitler.
Yeah.
Literally, I wanted to redo a story. That was my main obsession, and they said no to that. But I would have loved to do that. But I wouldn't approach it in the style of the 1940s. You get me?
Yeah.
It's like when I did my pinup art. I did retro pinup art, kind of like going back to Vargas and Elvgren and the stuff that all the guys had in the garages back in the 1940s when I was a kid. But when I went back to do it, I kept it more retro. It's so sort of amorphously set in the 50s and 40s, but not really. It looks like it's done now. The painting looks like it's contemporary.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not trying to ape a style of the 1940s, nor was I going to do that with the Marvel stuff. I wasn't going to go back to a style. So I'm looking at all the stuff that was happening at that time,
Now, a thing that's particularly interesting to me is in the 90s, in that time frame, computer coloring was starting to really come to the forefront of everything, right? Like everything was now computer colored, and really over the top. Like if you look back to those 90s books, I mean, the acid green in your face stuff, was going on. Maybe a little overdone.
Well, it's the beginning of a new era. I mean, before, from my understanding, color in the comics was treated as something you get knocked out at the end.
Yes.
The so-called colorist, if there was such a term even for the person doing the color, I think it was the printer that they were dealing with. They were from a chart. Color number 40, I forget what the hell they call that.
The Pantone colors.
Pantone colors. Put that into the skin. Superman's clothes is this color. Skin is this color. The blue, the hair, it's all standard stuff. Nobody's thinking about lighting except people like the comics strips, like Hal Foster's Prince Valiant.
Yep.
He was looking like he was creating watercolor paintings. He would do blue line clouds that wouldn't reproduce. The blue would not reproduce, non-reproduction blue.
Yep.
And work with his printer, newspaper guy. People in the newspaper work with his printer to get the edge light of the cumulus cloud and the shadow color of the cumulus cloud. Two very subtle pink and light blue colors, next to each other, and there would be printed on it. And you see this in the comic strip. It's like, whoa, it looks like a watercolor. Yep. I mean, it was incredible. So there is a real awareness of light and color, and I'm sure there were others too.
Yep.
Winsor McCay going way back, and Little Nemo and whatnot. But gradually, in the more commercial comics like in DC, Marvel, nobody was thinking about that. Green Goblin's green. So and so is this color, this color, this color, this color, and that's all. Print them that color.
Yep.
You're not thinking about light. You're not thinking about what color lights does. Back then,
well,
none of that existed.
Also, the paper quality was
newsprint
was not the best. So in the 90s, with computers taking over everything, the paste up mechanical start falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
It's all digitally done.
Yep.
the print quality was able to come up.
Yeah.
And to able to start matching some of the stuff the guys were doing. And when those colors started being able to pop, it really pushed the bounds. Now, where I was going with that is seeing that these guys that were getting these intense colors that were doing it on a computer, but you were able to kind of match that look and hold your own in the intensity with a traditional acrylic paint.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if you squeeze the color right out of the tube, you use cadmium reds straight out of the tube. You can't go wrong in terms of intensity, and and it's about, but it's not just that. It's how it's lit too. What's the edge light? It's about light against dark, or dark against light, or light against dark. That's all part of the composition and what makes things look the way they look in this realm. Well, in any painted realm, light against dark, dark against light. But here, everything is cranked up.
Steve Harris says he loves your work, Greg.
Thanks, Steve. Keith is reading.
Keep talking while I'm reading this.
Color was not ever the issue in the comics. It was, like I say again, I'm repeating myself, but they treated it as something you did at the end. I think they had 2 days to fill in the colors. It was almost, you don't need that really. And I don't know. I don't think the artists themselves, penciling, inkers, they were thought in terms of the color, thought in terms of the drawing. Everything is so hasty and speedy. Everybody was segmented into their positions, and nobody's thinking of the whole thing. I don't think.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Maybe there were, but
a few, and they've lasted.
Yeah.
So, off topic of Marvel for just a quick moment, because we want to answer as many questions as we can, and we've touched on this a few times, but look, Richard Hammer. What was the inspiration behind the Black Sabbath album art?
Well, that was a nightmare, a dream I had. Coming out of a circumstance back in the day that I was going through a lot of turnover in being torn apart mentally, spiritually, in terms of my politics, my religion, my everything, from my past into the present. And I was going through a lot of changes. And it was a gigantic struggle. And without getting into all the bloody details of it at this particular moment, that's a story for another time. And that image came out of that time frame that I was going through, and it wasn't something I consciously sat down and came up with, like a layout like this. I got to do the X-Men. I got to put so and so in there. That's a conscious effort, a knowledge ahead of time what it is you're going to do. This image didn't come like that. It came to me at that state where you're drifting out of your conscious state into your subconscious state, going to bed, sleep. This image formed. And then I saw it. I let it go. You let the image go in your mind at that stage, and it became a whole sequence. That stretched skin on the rack. That was these hulking figures' last victim, and they were coming towards me, and I was their next victim. And that's when I kind of snapped to, or woke up, or what the hell ever you want to call it. I sketched it down. I drew it, and then sometime later I did a bunch of sketches on it, just kind of and then painted it finally.
So yeah, I believe we did a whole show
on that, I think.
Yeah, one of our earlier episodes, like a whole show on that that painting. So
that's detailed.
Yeah, go back and check that out, because the story is fascinating. I'm going to show this book in front of that book one more time. All right, that's the Marvel art of the brothers Hildebrandt, and you can get this in bookstores. However, what you can't get in bookstores is getting it signed by Greg. Now, the other option you can get for a little bit more money is what we call a Remarked Edition. And essentially that is a sketch by Greg. And there he's doing a few characters as remarks that he could put in there for you. And he puts it onto that black paper right there in the front of the book.
Silver, ink pen. I draw with a silver pen. So, yeah, then after the cut, well, here's one. Look at, and we would do this stuff too. Here's one that Adam Kubert was doing, Wolverine and Sabretooth. So he wanted us to paint it. He did the drawing, and then Tim and I did the painting. And That was a lot of fun.
Now, is that the? I'm trying to think. I know. Is this the first time that you worked with?
Yeah.
A third party.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, it was. You're right.
So
Yes, that was the very first time. I haven't done it very many times since then.
Yeah. No.
Definitely with nobody from Marvel. Here's a weird thing. Back in the day, whoever made these decisions is very.
Adam did it with Adam again.
Yeah, with this particular thing, yes, I'm jumping backwards with that idea in mind of working with someone else. I mean, what jumped into my mind was, like I said, I knew Joe Simon, and we were talking quite a bit. We go over his apartment in New York City, Gene and myself, and my daughter Mary then, and we sit around and talk, and we kind of like revolved the idea that he would, with Gene, I think might have been Gene's idea, I can't remember exactly, that Joe would draw a Captain America scene picture, and I would paint it. And then Gene brought it over to somebody at Marvel, and they said, "Nah, not interested." I'm not sure why. It seems like a kind of a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
With Joe Simon?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes decisions aren't exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Maybe it's something personal. I get a couple compliments coming in for you. 1-6 shooter. Oh, hey, how you doing again? Good to see you again. He says the Bob Rule show was a great show.
Oh.
And Mark McNabb. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Said the Hildebrandt brothers took comics to a new level. Great, excellent work.
Thank you.
I agree.
I mean, it's like it's about enthusiasm and excitement. It's like being completely turned on, not about what you can get away with, but what the hell can you bring to it. That makes it something. I mean, it isn't like I'm trying to do something new at all. I'm just trying to do something that turns me on. That excites me to paint and draw.
This next poster I'm going to hold up, one of my all-time favorites, Marvel posters, which is when you see this thing, actual
big
size, you really get the sense that
he's at the window.
Spider-Man is
outside your window.
It's fantastic. Now, moving into the next big project, I mean, I know you went through several posters and iterations and all that stuff that's going on in here, but you then ended up doing an illustrated comic, right? Graphic novel?
X-Men 2099. And I'm not sure why that ended up as the one. Again, I'm going backwards again to talk about Joe and Cap. And I suggested, in fact, I drew several pages. I still have them, of Captain America and, and going back to World War II. I drew a whole sequence of Cap, outside the bunker, the mountain fortress of the Red Skull, and, hiding underneath of a truck as a truck enters the fortress, and jumping out and getting inside, and there's Hitler's in there, and he's got Bucky strung up upside down. I had this whole sequence all in a whole beginning of the story. Nobody was interested. I thought that was, and it was like, I mean,
maybe they were trying to think of what was going on in comics at that time, or with Captain America at that time. Now, really, in the 90s was when I was collecting, in the first part of the 90s. That's X-Men were huge.
Yeah, gigantic.
Jim Lee was doing X-Men. All the stuff. All those guys that eventually then went to Image in the middle of the decade.
Yeah, then Andy Kubert. I think Andy started right after Jim Lee.
Yeah.
X-Men. Yeah.
Yep. So I don't remember Captain America being an extremely popular character.
He wasn't. They tried to bring him back in the 50s to fight communism, and that didn't work. They didn't know what to do with him. So I wasn't trying to make him. I wanted to go back to my time.
Yeah.
I was born in 1939, so I can remember the ending of the Second World War. And I can remember seeing the Life magazines that came in after the Nazi the death camps were opened. I remember seeing those pictures as a little kid. I still got the magazine here. It was like devastating to me, and I wanted to go back and do something with that. The camps and all that with Captain America.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know why that kind of thing doesn't register. because it's like, to me, it's the big picture. It's like, what the hell, what's a superhero created for except to fight that kind of monstrous evil and to remind people of it. It's like it should always be, never forget this.
Yeah.
Bring it forward. Never forget this, because we can repeat it all over again.
It's true. It is very, very true. Sometimes, again, people get in their head like, we don't want to do that.
Well, here, let's go back. Yeah, go on.
I was going to show that picture of Shang-Chi, which is the new movie out.
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay.
So, this also has reproduction of all Greg's blackboards, as we call them.
Yeah, they're black.
Right.
I started on a black piece of illustration board and started to work it with Prismacolor pencils and then some paint. But here's the one. Let me just go back.
Yeah.
You can talk. Where the hell is that one?
So, shoot, I kind of lost my train of thought. My apologies. Let me see what's going on in here. Richard Hammer. Really love the old Charlie McCarthy type puppet work.
Oh yeah, that stuff is.
Yeah.
That's what.
We also have
I collect
shows
those
about that too.
I collect those toys, and here it is. Here's one of my proudest. I mean, it's a centerfold, but I did this at, like I say, Joe Simon had already died. It was Captain America's 75th anniversary, and I just wanted to paint this picture. Can we see it there? How can we see this?
There you go. Yeah, that's good.
It was a paraphrase, a takeoff on Joe and Jack's original cover of Cap busting into Hitler's lair and giving him a right hook. But I did my own thing when I was trying to reconstruct their cover. I just wanted to take that scene and have it be that, and so I researched it, and I made it Hitler's bunker, and I made the whole wall crashing in, Cap's really busting in, and I put the Nazi flag up on the wall, which is in the original book, their original cover. And when the Marvel, Gene then sent this over to Marvel, the picture, even though I had no intention of doing it for Marvel, I was doing it for myself, and remembering Joe, and it was the 75th anniversary of Cap, and so she sent it over there, and they used it then for a cover, but they couldn't use it with the swastika on the cover.
This is how they printed it, so we got a lot of light glare.
But they suggested that I put a world map, and so I did that on a separate piece, and then it was merged,
Yeah.
and so anyway.
So this is one that is offered as a print. Again, you can find these on the website and get 10% off with the code LIVE1. All right. We have a whole bunch of these prints. We're going to show them off here in just a moment before we go on. We had another question for you, Greg, which is, what is your favorite Easter egg that you have hidden in your art?
One of them here, just when we were talking about this, it's kind of very Greeked in. It's a Greeked in, it's roughed in. Let's take this out of
the sleeve,
so it doesn't shine so much. Easter eggs. Yes, Easter eggs. Well, I was painting this picture, and just for myself, and I guess Jean had already thought that she'd send it over to Marvel. So what I had here, just on Hitler's desk, over here, I had a picture of Henry Ford. People interested in history? Well, Henry Ford was a motherfucking, excuse my English, Nazi lover. I'm from Detroit, so I remember full well the Dearborn, and I remember the Dearborn newspaper that he printed and distributed. It was very anti-Semitic, and he admired Hitler. So I was sticking his portrait on the picture. Gene walked in and said, "That's a little too obvious." So I said, "Well, what the hell? Okay." Then on the desk, you can see there's a couple of papers. One of them is The International Jew by Henry Ford. It's an anti-Semitic diatribe. And next to that is very roughed in, but my intention was that it's the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a diatribe saying that the Jews are in a plot to take over the world. It's an ancient thing. Look it up. Will Eisner did he spent 25 years doing this graphic novel called The Plot. It tells you the whole story of this particular Protocols of the Elders of Zion. So that Henry Ford was using this diatribe to build up anti-Semitism in America. He printed it in his Dearborn newspaper. Hitler then dropped leaflets all over Germany. The thing kept showing up. It still shows up, even though it's been proven as false. And the real history is much more complex than that. It's got nothing to do with the Jewish people. But in any event, if you want to call those Easter eggs, that's there on the desk of Adolf Hitler.
Okay, so did you talk about X-Men 2099, or did we get sidetracked?
No, we didn't really talk about it, no.
Okay. So
no, we didn't talk about it.
So how did you get into doing that graphic novel?
I forgot how. Somebody brought it up that we should do that because they said the 2099 characters are going to be the next hottest thing. And that's going to really take over and take off and be big and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, if that's what you want, okay. So that's what we did. And more or less it happened that way. And then, we laid it all, Tim and I laid it all out. We drew the whole thing out, got models, posed everybody, did our usual thing in terms of setting it up and painting it and working out the color combinations so that we could do it, make an assembly line type thing, Tim and me working together.
Yeah.
And did that. And the interesting thing is Marvel, when they printed it, though, they decided to change the pagination. You know what pagination is? The pages aren't reproduced in the same order. And that means there's all the double spreads that we had designed.
Oh, no.
They were cut in half. You saw the one half of the spread on the right-hand page, and as you turned the page, you saw the second half of the spread on the left-hand side of the page. And they printed the whole book that way. And you didn't know that.
I did not know that. I'm standing here with my mouth open.
And Gene said, "What the hell?" And they said, "Well, that's that. We're not going to reprint it." So they had a very, very, I don't know why. People were just kind of like very weird.
That says
it's like, yeah, what the hell? So that's been done properly.
This then is the first time
it's in right order.
You could see X-Men 2099 Oasis printed properly.
That's right.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah, it was quite disconcerting to get it and look and see pictures cut in half and then these stuff. It's like, because people are reading it, they're thinking, why the hell did they lay it out like this?
Yeah, that would totally go on you. Everybody would think that was on you. Oh my god! So this beautiful spread would have been broken up.
Oh
my god. Okay, we got a fun question here. We might need some clarification. If you could turn anyone into a superhero, who would it be?
Oh, jeez. If I could turn somebody into one?
Yeah, okay, now, we might need some further clarification on your question, Tim.
Go with that. I mean...
Is he a mad scientist turning someone into a hero or villain? Is it... what kind of power would he give them? Or it's like, man, that person is a superhero... or is it, I'm going to paint this individual as a superhero?
Well, I mean, look.
Yeah, we need clarification.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, please. But this just, I mean, I you know me, I kind of go over the place with my mind.
Yeah.
Superhero. There's so many of them out there that don't need to be made into superheroes because they are already there. The ones who deal with suffering every day. Horrendous, whatever that is, physical illness, those who will run into the burning building rather than running out of the burning building, the people, on and on and on. Anybody that puts themselves on the line with their lives to help somebody else out, doctor, scientist, firemen, police, mother, father, somebody working for civil rights, human rights, gay rights, they're all heroes. They're all superheroes as far as I'm concerned. So there they are. Only they don't wear these funny costumes.
Yeah.
They wear other kinds of costumes. Whatever they may be.
Uniforms.
So, but
it's the required.
So
if you can clarify that question, I'll try to
Yeah,
answer for you.
we can go super deep in the imagination, or maybe that answer was satisfactory for him. So we got a couple people commenting on Ford, and yeah, I didn't know that either, Adrian.
Yeah, no, he was a monstrosity. No two ways about it.
So, someone is saying that you are Greg, you're totally inspiring. You are an artistic master. And sorry, all of the comment sentences are broken down to 3 characters wide, and then extremely long. So I'm piecing out
this is not
all the compliments and the questions. So forgive me as I'm.
Imagine there's a column like this with 3 figures, 1 character, 3 characters, 2 characters, 3 characters, 1 character, and Keith is trying to make the words fit.
Nothing I do fix it. But yeah, basically, okay, we got a comment here saying, you're great, you're an inspiration, you're an artist of the ages,
Thank you.
things like that.
Look, it's like everybody. I'm just trying to get it right, It's kind of like what it comes down to. It's all, but the main thing is that I have fun at what I do. I enjoy the hell out of it, and I enjoy the fact that people enjoy what I do. I mean, there's nothing that can compare with that. If you're happy in your work and the work that you do makes other people happy, I don't know what the hell more you can do in the world, in a way, other than those superheroes I just mentioned, which are really doing the work for us all, saving us all.
Okay, so I got another question here. In addition to all your wonderfuls and awesomes, have you always retained copyright for your comic art, or was it any of it done for work for hire?
Oh, I have no copyright on any of this. This is all Marvel's copyright.
Yep.
In anything that I've done for any other publisher that owns that character, that they own the character. I don't own the copyright. I own the original painting that I do. That's what I own.
But not the copyright.
Not the copyright. I can't copy this picture. I can sell this picture, but I can't make copies of this picture and sell it. Not unless get Marvel's approval.
Yep. So you have, and all these prints that we're holding up, we just do want to be clear in that those are actually officially licensed by Marvel.
Right.
And Marvel actually did the printing on them for us.
Beautiful job, too.
So they did a fantastic job.
The color is exact from my paintings,
So they were actually really, really cool about that, rather than just Greg going to conventions and, making prints on his own. And,
I would never do that.
And selling them. They approached Marvel, and Marvel said, yeah, sure, we'll print them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came
out. That's rule number 1 with Jane. She would never, ever, ever, ever encroach on or try to screw somebody in terms of copyright. Never. Not in a trillion years. Neither would I. It's just out of the question. They own the characters, for God's sakes. I mean, they're not mine.
That's
Keith is trying to.
Your answer was satisfactory. So Tim got back to us.
Oh,
the answer you gave was satisfactory.
Okay.
So, we mentioned. I showed the Shang-Chi blackboard, and Adrian actually said that she loves the blackboard work, and I do too.
Who's going to play Shang-Chi? Donnie Yen?
I cannot remember the actor's name.
Too bad. I love Donnie Yen. Totally became a big fan of his, man.
I hear the movie's great.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. So as we're closing in, next week we'll talk more about the blackboards, and how you got into doing the blackboards, why you got into doing blackboards, and the actual process of commissions and doing commissions. So we get just a few minutes. I'm going to see if we got any more questions here coming in. If you had a superpower, what would you want?
The ability to be able to draw and paint quicker so I can produce more. Because it's all in here and I don't have enough time to get it all out.
Okay, so So it would be art related.
Speed, something like the Flash.
So not only speed, but you'd also have to have the hand-eye coordination and speed.
Yeah, maybe someone, a time traveler, that I could go back and fix up stupid shit that I've done in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Do you recall working on A Home for Tandy?
Absolutely. That was a fun book to do. That was like very nostalgic. We treated that like a very nostalgic throwback to kids' books that we grew up with. And it was done for Platt and Monk, classic publisher in the Bronx, actually. And I don't know if they're still there, but they did the little engine that could. They go way, way back. And we did that book, treating it, like I say, more in a nostalgic manner of the books that we grew up on as a kid. Johnny Gruelle's fairy tale books, and stuff like that.
Do you have a list, or does Gene have a list of all of the children's, like your early children's book work?
No. I've got a bunch of, I've probably got a collection of about 80% of what I've done, 70% of what I've done. But not, I don't have everything. It's just, you don't think to keep stuff back when you're doing it, you're making a living at it. You just, you know, boom, 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 boom. You don't end up keeping stuff, or the publisher doesn't end up giving you anything. Most of them didn't.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't give you books or anything back. It wasn't like that.
And then, what pop culture property would you like to work on that you have not had the chance to work on yet?
Culture property. You mean somebody else's property? Well, right now in my mind, it isn't anybody else's long time. I wouldn't want to devote a long period of time to someone else's property. I have a bunch of them over here on shelves and racks that are my properties. That I probably would want to pursue those. I've done a story with my son on Nikola Tesla. He wrote it. I've laid out six books already. 6 books to tell one story. And things of that nature. I've got a bunch of sequential art stories that I've done over the years that I would prefer to pursue. I wouldn't necessarily go to anyone else to look to pursue long-term projects with them, even though at the present moment I'm really turned on to the fact that I'm working with Heavy Metal Magazine. And I did covers. Gene licensed cover paintings that I did for posters back in the 80s, early 80s. I mean, we've connected them with the new people that own and run the company, and they're fantastic. And I love them, and they're just brilliant. And so I'm glad to be working on them on a couple of books that they've created along with other people that I'll be doing work with them. But they're interested in my original work also. So it's a great combination of stuff. You know.
So Dennis Murphy, Dennis, I'm gonna ask the question. Now that you're famous, Greg, how do you negotiate this kind of like licensing deals with clients? What is fair and typical? If you can elaborate, I don't know if we have a lot of time to get into that.
That would be Gene's category.
But we have answered that in future podcasts, and we will answer that again, maybe at a later time, because that's a
show in itself, or a half a show anyway.
Yeah, but I wanted to acknowledge that question you were
That's
there.
a great question. Meaningful, important question.
Someone saying, watching from Scotland, enjoying the conversation.
Oh,
hi.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it. It's okay. Sorry, I'm mumbling to myself as I'm trying to break out these words.
We're going to have to get this straightened out.
Yeah, I have no idea why it's... last week it was showing me just everybody's icons. This will be the last updates I will give to this project. My Illustrated Dragon. Oh yeah, the Illustrated Dragon, the books. Finally been finished, and I have been paid in full. Awesome, congratulations, man. This person, I think you'll recall, they've been asking questions about like how long does it take and stuff to do it, and in the book over several episodes. So, hey, man, it's great to hear that you finally finished the book and that you got
Fantastic.
paid for the job. Congratulations. Yeah, I bet that has been a long journey. I think he said he did like 50 dragon paintings.
Oh yeah, yes. That's a lot.
All right.
The thing is, you gotta love that too. That's the whole other thing about sequential art. Certain illustrators, they hate doing more than one picture of a character. They can't stand the whole idea that you draw
Yeah.
this character over and over again and all these different. And to me, I've always loved that because you can become these people and they become real for you, and you can move them around and throw them into situations, and have stuff happen. It's very much, it's like being an actor or a film director,
Yeah. So Sharon Karras says that she hopes that there is a biography of Greg's life in the works.
Yes. Well, there's a documentary underway on my life.
That's right. They've announced it, right? So we could.
Yeah.
So yes, there is.
There's a documentary, and then as far as a book, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's autobiographical that will be, coming out, and I guess I have been, making notes on my entire life for quite a while. I go in and out of it. I'll sit and write for a while, and then stop for a year, and then come back and go back to it again, and that's all.
I remember at one point in time you had a stack of pages where you were drawing it.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of drawings of my past. Yes, I started doing it that way. I started drawing. Remember, I went back to the very earliest memory that I had for way to start the autobiography. What's the very first thing I remember? And I really could get to it because it was, again, a recurring dream or reality. I was never sure, and it goes back. I could deduce the time frame because I was in a coverall outfit. What little things that little little kids wear.
Yep.
I was in a crib, the wood kind that goes up and down. So how old are you? That 2, maybe.
Yep.
And I was laying there. I knew that my brother was in the other crib, Tim, in this bedroom in the east side of Detroit, a small house. There was a window here, there was a closet there, and there was a door here that went to the hall, and there was a bathroom right next to the bedroom. And I'm laying there. I remember being aware of something. I come up to the end of the bed. I drew this all out in sequential art form. I come up to the end of the bed, and there's this creature standing there. It was like a head was touching the ceiling, and it was long head, big black eyes on it, 2 big black eyes, with a kind of a camel mouth, long stretched body with 2 legs, almost like this, with 2 or 3 toes on the legs, and was just standing there, staring at me, and I started crying. And suddenly the door opened. So this was like the door opened to my left. So here's the awareness of color and light that I can recall. The room was all this coolish blue, grade blue light, the light coming through the window to my right. The creature was in front of me. The door opens to the left, and all this warm light bathe pours into the room. And it's my dad, half shaved. He's got the cream on all over his face, his suit and tie, and suspenders on. And he was just shaving, getting ready to go to work. He worked at GM. And was half shaved, and he leans in, this big smile that he had, and picked me up and started patting me on the back, and I took, and the thing was gone.
Huh.
That's my very first memory.
That's fascinating, man. I know people who have that exact memory as well.
It's very interesting.
So 1-6 Shooter, he's the one who asked about the pop culture property. He says he would love to see you do something with Dune. Are you familiar with Dune?
Oh, absolutely. There's a new. Isn't there a movie?
There is a new movie coming out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You see, the thing is, once you get to be 82, as I am, you start to think more about the things that you have in your head that you want to do.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where you kind of get to at this particular moment.
I get it. I totally get it. Someone else said, love your work. They look at the Tolkien Years book all the time. But the Tolkien Years book, that's when I met you.
Yeah.
And when I was in school at that time, started working here, and all of those beautiful tracing paper drawings that you see in that book are actually done to size, which are
5 feet, 4 feet
5 feet,
across, 5 feet,
yeah.
6 feet. 29, I
And
think.
me and another gentleman by the name of Kevin Dobler were here unfolding.
Sort of like the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yes.
We're afraid that they're going to crack it.
Knowing
This
that
ancient papyrus is going to brittly crack.
this drawing is of greater value than I am right now.
Which we were ready to throw away.
Yeah, Gene said it, right?
That Jean saved them. We had just started work together way back, because I mean, back in the day, we threw everything away, all sketches, because the job was done. That was it. It was over with. Who's going to want this stuff?
All right, man. Well, we are 5:07. We're at the end of the show. Again, hey, thanks for all the comments coming in. We truly appreciate it. We hope you like this format going on. Again, the offer code is live1, the number 1. Put it into the comment section of the website when you place your order for anything Marvel related. That's this book, these prints, there's card sets, this painting if somebody wants to throw down. By all means, please do. But again, thanks for coming to the show. If you like what we do, you like what you're hearing, please hit the like button, subscribe button, share us with your friends, right? Our smiling, happy mugs, right? Greg is always interesting and fun to talk to and listen to. Website down in the bottom, I believe, left-hand corner of your screen, is spiderwebart.com. And we hope to see everybody again next week. And good night.
Adios.